Hello my sweet friends, and welcome back to another episode 3, books and baking. On today's episode we are making apple crumble. I love apple crumble. Now apple crumble is like the best because it's like a dessert. It's a good way to get your fruit in, and it's also so good with like yogurt in the morning. So anyway, that's like my favorite dessert. And because in Australia we are headed into autumn, well it's like March now, so it's basically autumn, just like the perfect autumnal dessert, you know? Okay, so because I have already peeled and chopped up all of my apple, let's talk about what you will need for today's recipe. Today's recipe, you will need apples. I used about 8 in this particular recipe. You will need oats, like rolled oats, brown sugar, flour, butter, cinnamon. So let's get started. So the first step, which I've already actually done, is peeling the apples and chopping them into little cubes like this. That is what you're going to do. That's the first step. Because that's the most tedious step, I had already done that before filming, just so it wasn't like my whole video was just me cutting apples, because that's boring. So you want to cut them all. As I said, I cut about 8 apples, and that fits in this tray. So it depends on how big your tray is that you're going to use. The next thing we're going to do is put 2 tablespoons of water in this. Okay, but before any of that, we've got to talk about books that I hate, because that's what we're talking about with our books and baking episode today. We're talking about books that I hate and why I hate them, but also elements within a book that make me hate it. Okay, sorry, I forgot that I left my tea in the microwave. So, books that I hate. Let's get stuck into that, because I feel like I have more books that I hate than more books that I love, which is really upsetting, especially for like 5-star reads. On average, I think all the books I read are generally like a 3-star, and that's like a pretty average book. Like there wasn't anything like amazing about it, I wasn't addicted to it, but it also wasn't a bad book. But in saying that as well, I think that I have a lot more bad books than I have good books, or like a 5-star read book. Okay, so let's put our 2 tablespoons of water in here, and then we can get on to the crumble mixture, which is gonna be the most flavorful part of this recipe. So it's good to get it right. In saying that, I wing this recipe every time. 1, 2, I'm just gonna do 3, I think, just because this is a little bit bigger than I normally do. Basically, you want it to start stewing in there, so hence why the water will kind of speed up that process for the apples. So, as I said, we are going to need some oats, some brown sugar, flour, and butter. So let me just grab the rest. I thought I had all the ingredients here, but I don't. So the first thing we are going to do is mix the self-raising flour and the butter together so it forms like a bit of a crumb. You want it to almost be like a pastry consistency. If you have made pastry before, you kind of know what I mean. You want to get in there with your fingers. So I'm actually going to use the rest of this butter. Probably use about 3 to 4 tablespoons of butter. As I said, I generally wing this part because we want to be able to cover the entire tray. So depends how big your tray is, but let's just talk it through and we'll wing it. Okay, so the first book that I hate, which was quite upsetting, was The Cruel Prince. Now this book I actually bought with some birthday money, and I was so excited. I picked it up. I was like, you know what? I could start another series right now. So I picked that book up, and I read the blurb, and I was like, you know, billionaire, enemies to lovers, forced proximity, all that good stuff. And I was like, yeah, I'll buy that one. Anyway, purchased it, and I did not expect to have 50 Shades of Grey in there. I really didn't, and I probably should have figured like from the title of like The Cruel Prince, but I did not see that coming at all. So it started off okay, but even then I was kind of like, this is weird. Like, why are you being forced to marry a man just because you burnt down a library, like his dad's library? So she burnt it down, and then he is running for like mayor or something. It was a little while ago that I read it. He's running to be like a mayor or something, and she burns down this library, and then they're like forced to marry each other, which was super weird because they're like rival mafia families. So I thought that was weird. Also, at the start of every single chapter is like a picture, and I didn't like that. Like, I thought that was kind of weird, a bit odd that you would put pictures in a novel, but anyway. And then of course we had, all of a sudden they turn like 50 Shades of Grey, and it's very violent, I guess you would say. I don't know, not my thing at all. Maybe it's some other people's thing, but that kind of level of spice is definitely not my cup of tea. I like a bit of spice here and there, don't get me wrong, it's nice to have it in there, but I think when the book just all of a sudden becomes all about that, it's really upsetting. Okay, I've just added some more flour to this as well. So we're probably sitting at about a cup of flour. You really want it to be like combined, but still crumbly. Sorry, and I'll show you what I mean. Almost like a broken sand type of mixture, because it's a crumble. So please don't forget that. This actually probably needs some more butter to it, so we have like big chunks of crumble. I love a good big chunk of crumble. Like, the butter and the flour are mixed together, but they are quite crumbly still and kind of like wet sand. So with the Cruel Prince, there was also My Dark Romeo. Again, I should have known from the title. But I have like cover blindness. Every time I see a nice, cute cover, I'm like, this is gonna be a good book. And I literally judge a book by its cover. Like, sue me. I picked this one again. It was enemies to lovers, forced proximity, billionaire kind of romance. And I was like, you know what? I am gonna love this book. I read the dedication, I read the first chapter, and I was obsessed. I was like, this is going to be a 5-star. And I was so excited because I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be the first 5-star for 2025. I was so excited. And then I got to the second chapter and I'm like, I'm sorry, what just happened? So My Dark Romeo starts at a debutante ball, and for some reason all the girls are 20, and it's literally a marriage month. Like, the men that are there are looking for their wives, and it's really kind of creepy and kind of weird because a lot of them are older than the girls. So the girls are all like 20, but all of the men are like a lot older. Anyway, and our female MC, she's just there for the good time. Honestly, she's there for the food, the free food, and the free drinks. She's already betrothed to someone, so she's like, I don't really care that much. So she's like, I don't really care about this ball. I'm already like betrothed to someone, doesn't really matter, you know. She's just there for the food and the drinks. Anyway, and she meets this guy, have this cute little banter back and forth, and then all of a sudden he like invites her to meet him like in the garden or something. Anyway, and she goes to the garden, and then all of a sudden they do some bad things, right? And then they get caught out, and then because he has done what he's done, he needs to now marry her. Now we're like transported back in time, apparently, to the fact that, oh, you've taken her, so now you need to marry her. Anyway, which is fine. I guess it's like the respectable thing to do. It was just weird. I'm like, what year are we living in right now? So yeah, I was kind of like, wait, what year are we living in? Because this is so weird. So anyway, they are forced to get married for that reason. And then it just, again, turns kind of 50 Shades to Grey, but like 10 times worse than The Cruel Prince. I was just not expecting that. So I've learned now to like go and read reviews before I actually buy a book, because that book went straight into our bin. Because normally I give them away to like charity or something, but oh my gosh, I was just like, no one needs to read that, and the person that wants to read that needs Jesus. And I have Jesus, and I was like, girl, you should not be reading this book. In saying that, though, those are probably the 2 worst books that I have ever read in my entire life for a particular reason, and that is like the level of spice in the book. As I said, I like spicy, but not that type of level of spicy. That is too much, and I think especially when it takes up the whole entire plot at the end, I just don't like it. Like, where is the actual book? At the moment, you've just written an erotic novel, and it shouldn't be in the romance section. In my opinion, it should be in the erotic novel section. of the bookstore. But anyway, what we have put in our crumble is about a cup of butter, a cup of self-raising flour, half a cup of brown sugar, as well as about a teaspoon of cinnamon. And then you're gonna mix it together again with your hands. And you kind of want big chunks in it as well, kind of like this one, where it's all crumbles, but there's a lot of big chunks in there. The butter is really gonna hold it together. Then you're gonna pour that all over your apples. Now, there's a few different options as well for the crumble. You can put peanut butter in it. You can also put coconut. I have done both and I have enjoyed both versions of the crumble as well, with the coconut and with the peanut butter. Or you can just make it plain like this. Completely up to you. I know some people like to do like a biscuit base for their crumble. Again, up to you. I don't really like it like that, but my husband really likes it like that. So I'm just gonna pour this over the top, and then we can put it in our oven, which is set at 160 degrees. So that has been preheating. And so we're just gonna add this over the top. And you wanna make kind of a thick layer of the crumble. Like a thicker layer is better than a thinner layer, because you've got all of that apple. You need to really balance it out with something else. She is looking good, like you can see that thick layer of crumble in there as well. So I'm going to cover that with foil, and then we're going to pop it in the oven, and should take about 40-45 minutes to cook entirely. I think the worst books that I have read are generally the ones with a lot of spice, where the plot is really lost in all of that. And I think if something is so slow, like if it's just taking forever, if you're halfway and like we're not at the climax yet, or we don't know what's happening, that's not okay. Like we should not be at that point halfway through the book. So if a book is super slow, I would just DNF it and be like, you know what? I am not reading the rest of that book because that's boring. Same with these super spicy books. Those are the type of books that I was just like, you know what? I actually really didn't like you. Otherwise, majority of books, as I said, fit into the category of like a 3-star, like 2.5 star, 3-star. That is my average read, and that's an okay book. Like it's okay. I haven't loved it. I haven't been addicted to it. There hasn't been like a lot of surprise or a lot of suspense or a huge plot twist that I didn't see coming. Those books are my average. And then my 5-star books are books that I absolutely love, that I cannot put down, that I am just addicted to, and I can't wait to see what happens in each chapter, and I just want to keep reading. So I'm very fortunate in the fact that I have not had that many books that I've hated. It's only been about maybe 3 or 4, but the 2 main ones, yeah, The Cruel Prince and My Dark Romeo. I also didn't like The Wild Side book by Elsie Silver, and I also actually didn't love 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I found that a little bit slow for my style. So yeah, those are the 4 books that I did not like. Again, thank you so much for joining me on my little episode of books and baking. Sometimes it's a little bit, I feel like a bit flustered with everything going on, so I might kind of change the style of these videos a little bit and just put everything on the screen in regards to the baking side of it, and then just talk to you so I don't have to focus on telling you the ingredients and telling you what to put in next. So yeah, but I'm still learning on this books and baking episode. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope that you also made a little apple crumble to go with your tea and your book that you can enjoy all together, either in the morning or at nighttime after dinner. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next month. Bye.